knows what's going to happen. I can only tell you we cannot ever let Iran have a nuclear weapon, and it won't happen. The assets of Ayatollah Khomeini and his office will not be spared from the sanctions. I think a lot of restraint has been shown by us, a lot of restraint, and that doesn't mean we're going to show it in the future. But I felt that we want to give this a chance, give it a good chance, because I think Iran potentially has a phenomenal future. And I say that about North Korea, too.
President Trump in the Oval Office today signing an executive order on new sanctions. These specifically targeted, our friend Tom Rogan with the Washington Examiner writes, new U.S. sanctions targeting Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, will fuel tensions with the Islamic Republic. While good strategy, the sanctions nearly guarantee that Iran will act soon to test President Trump's resolve. So what about that? We'll start there with our panel. Chris Stirewalt is politics editor here at Fox News, Leslie Marshall, Democratic strategist, and Katie Pavlich, news editor at townhall.com. Chris.
Well, it would be hard to overstate how unpopular U.S. military action against Iran would be politically. It would be on the top tier of things that American voters do not want right now is another conflict in the Middle East. Donald Trump knows it, and he doesn't want it. And this is, by the way, consistent with everything that he said running for office, everything about him. He is a non-interventionist. He is the opposite of the traditional Republican model. This, however, does put congressional Republicans in a difficult position.
He also said he understands he has hawks in his administration, John Bolton and others, in that interview with Meet the Press. But this particular targeting of the Ayatollah has never been done before, Leslie. I mean, it's going to stir the hornet's nest, too.
It is going to stir the nest, but I'm not sure it'll get them to the table. And isn't that our goal? And to me, it's kind of a mixed signal. It's sort of like, we're going to strike. No, we're not going to strike. We're going to add more sanctions. These are going to be very specific. We know that anything at the top trickles down to the people, unfortunately, in some way, shape, or form. And I just don't think this gets them to the table. And that's what they say they want, right? The president says this, that's what everyone wants. We want peace. We want to sit down. We don't want them to build a nuclear weapon to enrich more uranium. This does not do that, in my opinion.
But that may be his red line, is any enrichment that goes forward.
Well, and that's the big question. So the White House is arguing the shoot down of the drone is a separate issue from the nuclear weapon path that Iran wants to continue to be on. We know from the intelligence that the Israelis went into Iran and gathered physically and brought out and showed that they definitely still have their blueprint of their nuclear weapons program. So we'll see what the administration does on that. And they made it very clear today that the pressure campaign that they put on Iran is really not that new. We tend to get very impatient about these things moving quickly. It's been in place for about a year now, and they want to go forward with more sanctions to try and get them to the table in a diplomatic way, as the president has been criticized for not being diplomatic enough when even after a violent act of war against the United States in the Gulf of Oman, we are still trying to proceed with diplomacy. Now, that being said, the president has made it clear, I'm still having military force on the table. We've been very patient, and there may be action that Iran takes that has to be responded to with military force, which does not necessarily mean we will be involved in a full-scale war. We've done it many times before of just very strategic strikes, whether it was in Syria under his administration or in other areas throughout the past 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely feeling it on the ground in Tehran economically. Okay, we're going to turn to 2020. This is a big week for the Democrats. They have their first debate. If you look at the RCP average of all the recent polls, it is still Joe Biden with a big lead, 31.9. Bernie Sanders in this compilation is in second. Other new polls have Elizabeth Warren gaining steam. Meantime, Mayor Pete had a tough weekend. Take a listen.
Do you understand? Get the people that are racist off the streets. Reorganize your department. You can do that by Friday.
I don't know if it's smart or not. I don't know if it's strategic or not. But it's my city. And I have a relationship with everybody in this city who looks to the city to keep them safe.
Now, I don't know. Is it me, or does he not come off looking good after this thing?
This is disqualifying. I'm not going to use the word disqualifying, but when you have a candidate about whom the questions are related to readiness, toughness, qualification. He's 37 years old. He has a spectacular resume for a 37-year-old mayor of the 103rd largest city in the United States. However, That's not what the president does, right? A huge part of being the president of the United States is in horrible situations, terrible situations, far worse than this one. You've got to be able to stiff upper lip it and get through it and get the job done for your citizens. This was a big bad day for him.
Leslie?
This is going to hurt him. We're going to see it hurt him politically. His numbers, his popularity were surging, but he had 0% support from the black community. This doesn't help on that level. It also doesn't help when he's completely distracted mentally and emotionally going into this debate. This couldn't have happened at a worse time for him, and I don't think he's handling it as strongly. And I would agree with you that some would say he's not ready for prime time, if you will, being the presidency.
Prime time down in Miami, 2 stages, Wednesday and Thursday. We're taking the show down to Miami too. The 26th, de Blasio, Ryan, Castro, Booker, Warren, O'Rourke, Klobuchar, Gabbard, Inslee, and Delaney. 27th, Williamson, Hickenlooper, Yang, Buttigieg, Biden, Sanders, Harris, Gillibrand, Bennett, Swalwell. I mean, it's a big week. There's not a lot of talking time when you get to 10 people on the stage.
Yeah, this is not going to be a time where candidates can really put a ton of policy on the table, but it is a risky time for candidates to make statements without a lot of context when it comes to what actually they're trying to say, and that can be taken out of context by other campaigns. The interesting matchup I'm watching to see is Biden and Booker, because Biden seemed to win this battle this week and last week, drawing on his experience. The criticism of him has been he's an outsider, or he's an insider in Washington. I think drawing on his experience of what he was accused of this week helped him win that.
We shall see. Panel, thanks.